Hello everyone, thanks for dropping by. That's Dina on the screen. She's 5'7", about an inch taller than me, and the only thing I've ever seen her in is Starship Troopers, as she does most of her acting work on American TV. So, would I go with her? Nah. I'm the only person my height who she's ever been with is Billy Joel, and I ain't Jewish, so I wouldn't be bothering with her even if our orbits did cross and I was rich as what I said in previous videos. Her present boyfriend, he looks to be about 6'9", 6'10", so he's much taller than her, and as you know, women prefer guys who are taller than them. So, never mind. She's nice to look at, but nah. Anyway, enough about Dina. I've been looking around and I found some things on the divorce rates in America, which is quite interesting given that the MGTOW is well and truly entrenched in American society and women are finding it increasingly difficult to date. First one is this. As you can see, it's ABC News, and this was done on 18th of January this year. It's a bit of a confusing piece which plays fast and loose with some statistics. As you can see, it says divorce rates hit record low in America as marriage trends shift. So if you got down, it says divorce rates in America have reached a historic low, with only 1.4% of married adults getting divorced in 2023. Now, if you take a step back and look at that with a logical MGTOW perspective, the fewer people that are getting married, which means there's fewer men getting divorced, so naturally it will go down. And if you drop down further, where is it? So the declining divorce rates is also contributed to a decrease in single adults for the first time in years. In 2023, 42% of adults were single, down from 44% in 2019. You could also contribute that to the lowering birth rate. So if there's fewer babies being born, there'll be fewer adults reaching. If there's fewer babies being born, there'll be fewer babies reaching adulthood in those years. So, as it says, it plays fast and loose. It says the percentage of married adults is slightly increased from 50 to 51%, and those living with unmarried partner from 6% to 7%. Now, it doesn't say whether it's same-sex couples or a man and a woman. And it says economically adults in relationships fare better than their single counterparts. Maybe, but the guys can survive better on their own than a single woman, as you've seen all these single women on TikTok complaining about it. And that's the little bit article finished. Now, looking around further, I found this, the Washington Times. Apparently that's America's newspaper. And you see, for better or for worse, marriage decline spells social disaster. Apparently the Washington Post is something of a canary in a coal mine, and it's starting to ring alarm bells because they've seen the writing on the wall with 2030 rapidly approaching. If you drop down, it says, one of the problems of our declining birth rate, if left unchecked, will lead to our nation what has been dubbed a demographic winter. There will be more, by 2033, there will be more deaths than births in America, putting our nation not in only a zero population replacement rate, but also in a demographic death cycle. So after 2033, America will start to become like South Korea, and the American government will no doubt start to panic, because the falling birth rate will have dramatic effects right across the US economy. And it says it's alarming, not only happening in America, naturally, all over the Western world. The devaluing of marriage with declining birth rates. That could be a polite nod towards MGTOW, and women being too picky in who they're going to have as their husband. And the problem goes beyond the lack of children. Numerous studies show that a married society is the happiest society, because marriages bring people together and give them a purpose beyond themselves, till the woman is bored and she wants to destroy the marriage, and then she complains on TikTok the day after and starts crying. And then it says, it's not a coincidence that as marriages decline, we have become divided as a society. And then it goes more yada yada about it. And it says, finally, as deaths start to outpace births, there'll be ever increasing pressure on programs such as Social Security, Medicare, I don't know what that is, we have the National Health Service, and pensions. Over here in Britain we have a state pension. I don't think you have that in America, with not enough people paying into the system to cover the expenditures going out. Once again, guys on their own, they'll have to make their own economic programs and resources for when they reach pension age. Women tend to spend more than what they bring in, but guys can live frugally, whereas women cannot live frugally. So that's another thing to look out for in the future post 2033. And it says it is already happening now. It's estimated that the Social Security trust funds, which rely on having even younger individuals pay into them to pay the benefits of those retiring, will run dry by 2034. So we're getting halfway through 2025, about 8.5 years, 9 years from now, the shit will hit the fan in America and things will start to get interesting. It said resulting in retirees having their benefits cut by at least 20%. Well, America doesn't have a state pension, so I don't know what sort of benefits will be cut in America. And it says for all the reasons, essentially, it says, come on, Christopher. It says for all the reasons, it is essential that we restore marriage to its rightful place as a keystone institution in our society. Well, you're not going to do that. They are not going to do that, while American women are so picky about wanting to get American men in the top 10 or 1%, and they ignore everybody, all the other men in the other 90%. And remember, 80% of divorces in America are caused by women. And then it says, thankfully the voices I mentioned earlier in this piece, whether American or Canadian, understand this, but they don't. They don't understand the basic cause of it all. Unless we do so, our 0 hour will be rapidly upon us, and the social issues we've already faced with the decline of marriage will only increase. So this could be a polite nod towards MGTOW and the manosphere and the general problem with the dating industry by American women and Western women being too picky and not wanting guys in their sexual market value. And then for all members of society to survive, whether it be at the beginning of life or nearing its end, marriage and family provide a social safety net that the government tries but ultimately fails to deliver. Because money will not solve the problem I have described. It's not a case of money. It's a case of women not picking the guys which are on our same social and sexual level. A woman who's a 2 thinking she can get an 8 guy just isn't going to happen. And then it says, only marriage along with giving birth to succeeding generations will sustain our society over the long haul. Hopefully this realization is finally beginning to take hold, not just in society but in academia, as well as it truly is our keystone institution. Well, women going to colleges getting brainwashed by the Marxists there, saying that I don't need no man, academia is just as much to blame as what the women are themselves. But anyway, that's the Washington Times. Looking around for the rates of marriage, for facts, I've found this. This is USA Facts. This was done January 30th of this year. It's just a breakdown of marriage and divorce rates across America. If you drop down, Washington, D.C. and Utah have the highest marriage rates. Alaska has the highest divorce rates. But you go down to Vermont, only 4.4% of marriages end in divorce. So something must be being done right in Vermont. And you go down, and the state of Delaware has the lowest rate of marriages in America, and also the 9.3% divorce rates. That's 9.3% of every 1,000 people. So it says Alaska's highest divorce rate is paired with the highest divorce rate. The lowest divorce rate is in Vermont, as I've said, per 1,000 people, and the average age is 43.4%. Vermont is the third oldest state in America, behind Maine and New Hampshire. And then what age do people get married for the first time? If you drop down, you see California. This is the average age of a woman's first marriage in California is 31.2 years old, which means she's been riding the cock carousel. She's post-war, then she decides she wants to get married when she's probably had been more cock than John Wayne's rifle has. And then you got Delaware over here. The average age of a Delawarean woman being married is 30.4 years of age. Again, the post-war, and she's been riding a carousel. Maine is 29. Rhode Island is 30. Massachusetts is 31.3. New York, the state, 31.4. Right in the middle, Kentucky, 21.7. And Utah, as the lowest rate, is 26 years of age, but she's still getting close to the wall. And then Idahonans are the most likely to be married residents of DC, are the least likely. And once again, California, 61% of people have been married but age 15 plus, and District of Columbia, 45.6% of people have been married age 15 plus. And then states have the longest lasting marriage and all the rest of it. But this is the final piece I found, wedding trend for 2025. This bit that the site has highlighted. Fewer Americans are planning to have a wedding in 2025, with just 4% planning to do so, compared to 7% last year. An additional 5% have already had their wedding this year, and 1% decline at this point last year, while they equally as likely to defer their plans for next year or later, 8%. Then you could drop down, but the thing which is interesting is this bit. The top bit, yes, I plan to have a wedding in 2025. The bottom bit, no, I don't plan to have a wedding plans. Very concerned, 39%. Somewhat concerned, and not at all concerned. Now, if you look at that and that, you're looking at about a 12% difference. But if you had that to that, it's a 69%. So it doesn't say whether these are guys or gals, but this is a bit which is growing exponentially, 39%. Next year it could be 40 or 41%, rapidly closing in on this. And does yada yada, and that's the end of that. But it comes down to divorce rates might hit a record low in America as marriage shift trends, but fewer and fewer Americans are getting married, and they're starting to get worried because it could be the marriage decline spells social disaster. It'd be interesting to see what happens if we get closer to 2030, but it looks like Americans are not wanting to get married, and American guys are finding it better off to stay single, and American women are complaining on TikTok about it. I think I'm on the 10-minute now, maybe getting on for 15, so I'll stop it now. It's sorry if it's a bit iffy, but I didn't really find all that much over the weekend, so you know the routine, people, like, dislike, etc. It's completely up to you. So until next Monday, that's it for this one. Bye bye.